All right, everybody. Today in the show, we have Luc Skypowder. Luc is the owner of the International Free Ski Film Festival, or as everybody knows it, iF3. In this episode, we talk about Luc's journey to iF3, some behind the scenes of the festival, and his advice for people just starting their careers. Luc's coming to us from rural Quebec, so we had a few internet issues, but they don't last for more than a couple seconds at a time. So stick with us because they do pass. Had a great time talking to Luc, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello. Thanks for coming on today.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So let's get right into it. Who are you and what do you do for work?
Yeah, so my nickname is Luc Skypowder, and that's my industry name, and everybody knows me by that. So it's the easiest name to pronounce. So I'm Luc Skypowder. I'm the president and owner of iF3 Festival, which started in 2007 in Montreal, Canada.
Today we're going to get your journey and then kind of behind the scenes look at iF3. So let's start out with who Luke Skypower is. So where did you grow up? What's your story?
All over the map, so that's going to be interesting for you and the listeners. But started off, I was when I was very small. I lived in Gatineau, which is near Ottawa in Ontario, Canada,
Oh,
and I lived there for 13 years. At that point, I hadn't touched skis. I started off as a hockey player, like many of the Canadian kids, first 4 years old on skates, and that's what I did for most of my young life. Fortunately enough, my father moved to Alberta in Canada, Calgary, and at that point started high school and discovered skiing at the age of 15. Was going very little at the time because of the family and the affordable of the skiing. I mean, it's tough for everybody to get equipment and to drive to the mountains and so on. So I would go on school trips. I would discover it slowly, and then when I was on my own and I started off on my own around 19 years old. At that point, I started to ski a little more often and go and discover the mountains out west. Started off with the Alberta mountains and get into BC mountains over time, and really started to ski quite a bit when I was in my mid 20s, early 30s, because I let go of hockey when I was 30 years old and stuck to skiing and weekends, my weekend trips, my buddies' trips. We started to go much more. But it's always been for fun. It's never been a competition. It's never been where I was going out to do some crazy stuff like what I see now. But it was a real fun time, and I really enjoy winter and the snow. So that's it grew on me, and I would say now in the past 10 years, that's all I do in my winter. I go skiing as much as I can. I do some backcountry skiing. I started telemark skiing when my kids started to learn a little more. Gave me another challenge. So that's the pattern towards the skiing. In meantime, professionally, I did a whole whack of different things. As I would probably start by saying it, my life has always been a white page. I don't know what I'll do next year, and I really don't see that far. So when I was 19, 20 years old, I came out of high school, finished my high school, and I went into manufacturing, and I actually started to learn the basics of making phones, making actual regular phones, landline phones at the time, and made my way up the tiers of the company. And as I went through that, I actually learned quite a bit, and in the end, uh, I was able to obtain what I would say it's the equivalent to a business degree, through my experience, my work experience over the years. After which, around the early 30s, I decided I would start my own business and started my own lodging and moved back to Eastern Canada. And I've been now in the Eastern Townships, just above Jay Peak, Vermont, for since the early 2000s. And since then, I haven't actually moved my home, but I've been moving from places to places around here. There's a ton of mountains here, so lots to explore, both on the US side and on the Canadian side. And of course, I would do some trips out west and go and explore the Western mountains in both the US and Canada from the 2000s onwards. So Basically, I moved here. It was the intention was to work in the tourism industry with my own lodging, and with my own lodging, I explored all the mountains to show the guests where to go, where to ski in the townships, but as well in the southern U.S., the eastern U.S. as well, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, and I explored quite a few of the mountains. Had great funs just doing that over the course of the past few years, probably in North America, over 50 resorts actually that I was able to go travel to and enjoy. So it was a real fun time up to this point to ski all these areas. And through that process, I came to really like the Eastern Townships where I live, and I worked at a ski resort for 7 years as a marketing and sales marketing director. And during that time frame, I learned quite a bit about the industry. And during that time frame, I also discovered iF3, which had begun in 2007 in Montreal with a great bunch of passionate skiers and photographers and people that made videos and so on. They had a great setup in Montreal. And so I discovered it in 2012. As a mountain resort, I was sponsoring the event, and I was going year after year. And it came to a point where Felix Ryu, the owner of iF3, wanted to. He had young kids, and he wanted to start getting a little more attention to his family, and kind of take a break. And I didn't want this awesome festival to go extinct, so we talked to each other, and I proposed to take over. And in 2017, took over from Felix and the team, and many of the members stayed onwards to help out. And so since 2017, it's been, I would say 90% of my time is spent putting together the yearly event with a bunch of volunteers and people that are around me that surround this event. And since 2017, as you may or not know, we've introduced snowboarding as well. So now it's a skiing and snowboarding event.
Great. And so, with your ski experience, because iF3 is mainly freestyle for anybody that's not familiar, were you in the park? Were you in the moguls? Were you all mountain? What was your kind of experience in the ski world for what you like to ride?
So my personal preference is everything that's powder, big mountain. So the adventure type movies that come out every year that show, the big lines and the people going up skinning and finding those great spots all over the world. Those are my favorite. And of course, the tricks that they can pull off in the backcountry is just amazing. I'm not of that level. I was unfortunately too late to learn, but I can certainly appreciate, that. And from my perspective, seeing some of the skiers and snowboarders going from the park and then into the wild and going into the backcountry and doing similar things, that is quite the evolution for me. And when I see an accomplished skier able to do both, it's amazing to watch.
Mhm. I would venture to say that you're a little bit older than me. So, what did you think when park skiing was first coming on the scene? I'm not sure if you were already working at a mountain at the time, or you were operating your lodging. So, when did that kind of come onto your radar, and when did you start getting excited about that?
I've seen the introduction of snowboarding. I've seen the introduction of freestyle, like you said. As you can imagine, it was very, very popular here in Quebec. I mean, the iF3 began in 2007, but it was well before that it started, and it really hit the popularity front right in the mid 2000s here in Quebec and in Canada. And during that time, there was some really, really awesome skiers that were traveling the worlds that were part of iF3. And that's how I came to know about it. Some of the mountains were starting to put parks together. The owners were a little bit scared because of accidents and things like that. So there was all sorts of safety protocols to be followed and so on to put a park together. And then from those years onwards, you can see now that the evolution of the mountains, most mountains now have a park or multiple parks, even free ride trails dedicated to free ride or free skiing. And for my part, the owner did not want to do a park or build a park. So what we would do is we would develop a whole bunch of glade skiing. And in the glades, we would put features out there so that kids could hit them and have a fun time. And then of course we would put smaller type of modules out there so they could practice the various things. But had it been my mountain, of course, a park would have definitely been a priority.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what mountain was this?
It was at Alzed Resort. It's near the border. It's in the Eastern Township.
Wow, cool. So moving on to iF3, um, as the president, how would you kind of describe it in your own words? What is it for somebody that's not familiar with the festival?
It's a very good question, and it's been our I guess our biggest challenge at this point, because the passionate skiers, the passionate snowboarders understand it. They understand the work that goes into making these films, the various challenges that we can go through a season to come up with these edits, and of course celebrating that is very important. So it starts at the core with celebrating and putting forward, and I guess and really looking at the best ski, the best snowboard films of that have come up the year before or during the year that you're going through, and putting those type of rewarding the best skier, the best snowboarder, and the best film editors and the filmmakers of the world, because it's international, is the first and foremost reason why this iF3 exists. And that our notoriety is built around the iF3 Movie Awards, and the fact that we're able to judge all the various films that come out for those same categories: sports, in snowboard, ski, pro, amateur, and open. And this open categories is started about 3 years ago, when we started to realize that skiers and snowboarders are starting to make movies together as well, showing great I guess understanding of each other and even respect. So this when we saw the trend going, we've opened it up so that people could film and make edits together, and it's really showing. And now in the future, we're seeing a lot more projects coming through that way. To answer your original question, uh, iF3 for the general public, what is that? It's a place where you can find the best movies and the best ski and snowboard movies of the year prior, and you can see those online from your home at this point. A few months after the festival, most of them will come to be available for you to watch. So if you're listening now, you've never heard of iF3, what I encourage people to do is to go to the website and go to the movie guide, and there's a whole bunch of links there. You can go and watch snowboard, ski, even open movies, and get a feel for what these people have accomplished over the past few months.
So in a normal year, COVID aside, when somebody attends the festival, what is sort of like the fan experience when they're in Montreal or Quebec City? What are they kind of experiencing when they're there?
It's the Hollywood of skiing. I mean, it's you'll see all sorts of athletes from around the world, producers and video makers of professional and amateur, that gather together in one spot to celebrate the culture, celebrate their accomplishments, and they do this with the general skier, the general public. So you're mixed in with all the best, and there is no filter. We sit for 4 days and watch movies in the theater or in the cinemas, and then of course there's always gathering and parties and getting together with great music and celebration of the iF3 Movie Awards as well. There's a big gala that takes part of the 4 days, and that's presented live with the athletes and producers being there present to receive their prizes. So this was pre-COVID. It happened every year since 2007, and it went all the way through 2019. So that was the way iF3 was.
Yeah. We'll get more to how you guys overcame the challenges of this year later, but so what is the story of how you got involved? Who approached you? What was your thinking at the time, and what was kind of the onboarding process taking over this position and kind of running the whole show?
So what happened is, with me involved in the ski industry and having the responsibility as a manager, director of sales and marketing for the resort, I came across iF3 and I thought it was a really great place for me to feature the resort and speak to passionate skiers and snowboarders about the mountain, invite them to come to the mountain and film edits and things like that. And of course, my main goal at the time was to gain the attention of the amateurs, the kids, the 15 to 21-year-old that would like to get into the industry, that didn't really know what to do. So there was a contest that's called iF3 Video Quest, and we would put that on at our resort. And there would be teams of 4, 5, 6, 7 riders that would come on during the year, and they would make a great video quest edit of about 3 minutes, and they would have a chance to win some cash and prizes. And then, of course, the winner of the contest would go to iF3 the next year in Montreal and meet all the best skiers in the world and producers in the world. So one of the best moments in all of this is when I got Union Production Kids, which is a small amateur production, that won a couple of years in a row. And when I saw that a couple of them made it into the big ranks a couple of years later, and they're now filming for major production companies and are part of that process. So through the process of the amateur film contest, they got through and made a career out of it. So it was a real eye opener. So how did I came to become the iF3 owner is through that process. When I found out that the current owner at back in 2015, 2016 was looking at passing the flame to somebody else, passing the festival to somebody else, I lifted up my hand and we met. We talked for a few weeks, and I helped him put together the last one that he did in 2016, and I took over from 2017 onwards. So it was really a passing of the flame, passing of the passion to another generation, basically.
Great. And what was going through your mind at the time? Were you ready to make this career change? Were you nervous at all to take on these new responsibilities?
I was very nervous because, as you mentioned earlier in our interview, we're quite different in age, and I saw all these young kids, and I would say kids, but they were young adults, basically. 18 to 25-year-olds was the main festival goers at the time, and I wanted to make sure that stayed, and of course it did. It's just I'm very young at heart, a little more mature, so I was able to keep the boat afloat and make the iF3 what it always has been for the last few years. And it's been a real fun venture right now, and I really enjoy myself.
And so your first year in charge, um, what was that like? Did it run smooth? Were there any difficulties that you had to overcome? What was that first year fully in charge like?
It was fun because it's iF3 is not a company that is very much got borders and lines, and it's wide open. So the team that got involved is a bunch of volunteers, people that have the passion, that came and surrounded the festival. So having that energy around me just made it that much easier and fun. And there was people that were involved in the prior edition of the festival in the past, so they knew how to run things as well. So I was definitely not alone. There was David Sorko that was involved the first year with me, passing on from the years before with Felix. So there was people like him involved. There was a young woman from France. Her name is Camille Martin, who's still with me, and she had studied her marketing degree and had come as a student to help in 2015. So she had that experience in the bag, and she was there in Montreal helping out. So, and of course, we were introducing snowboarding for the first time. So we got some great professional snowboarders involved as well, both in the judging side and in the direction side of the festival. So it was very natural. It was easygoing. No stress really. It was because it can't. Like I said, it's skiing. It can't be. It just can't be something of a headache. It's got to be fun. It's got to be pleasant and fun. So
Yeah, great. And excuse me. So, what does a normal year look like for you and your team? Say that you just the festival circuit from the previous year is finished. Where are you starting for a whole new year of this process?
It's been changing over the last few years. Um, I'd say now it's going to be more of a full-time job for at least three of us, myself included, because we are seeing, like, with the COVID, we'll get into this a little later, but there is a change that we had to make to the festival, but was part of what we wanted to do. COVID just accelerated it. But for instance, we were able to present iF3 sessions. Some of the production, some of the people didn't get to see all the movies. I mean, we've got over 100 registered movies every year. So you can't possibly watch them all in 4 days unless you're really, really crazy and you want to sit, on every single one of those film screenings that we have. And some people do. I've seen some real fans sit and watch every single movie we put out, but it's tough. So if you're not going to be able to do that, you want to be able to watch them later on at home and catch up and maybe see who won the prizes, who were nominated, why, and so on. So what we managed to do now is we're able to capture those movies and put them out a little later in the year. And that's what we've done. We've done 5 sessions this after the festival this year, where we presented 4 to 6 movies on a nightly basis. And after that, we make them available via the film guide. And of course, the directors and producers, they own their films, so they can release them to the public anytime they want. It's up to them. And sometimes they've released them right away, a few days before, a few days after the festival. Sometimes they wait a few weeks and a few months. So if people don't know, then we try to capture that, put them on our website, and make sure they see the productions and the movies that were produced for iF3 2020 and that were part of the official selection. So it's a yearly basis because it starts off in early January with us planning what's going to happen in October. And then we have to look for partners. Yeah, there's a big step for us. We have to look for support. We don't make money. We're not a nonprofit, but we don't make money. I don't come out personally with a paycheck. What I did not mention at the beginning is I've been doing this now for 4 years, and I haven't actually received any pay for it. So I have a second job on the side to make money and put bread on the table and feed the family, because iF3 is a big passionate thing, but I'm not able to make a job for myself with this. I do have some employees that are paid on a yearly basis, very small salary. They are, I would consider them more volunteers than employees, and they are definitely doing this out of passion. So at this point, iF3's been running sincerely on people's willingness to go behind it and sponsor it and be part of a big celebration on a yearly basis. So a big part of the job is to go find that support, and we start in January.
And so you start in January, and who's approaching the potential sponsors, and are you distributing sort of like a marketing pamphlet saying, "Hey, support us, and this is what the benefits you'll hopefully receive"?
Yeah, we've got a pretty sound plan on a yearly basis, and we've been successful in getting some really good sponsorship year after year, because we're able to present a solid plan and deliver. So we've got a really good reputation from that perspective. I'm a big part of that from my background in the marketing and sales. I'm able to do that. I do have a lot of help from Camille Martin, who's out in France, and she's looking at the international side of things. And then, of course, I have some of the passionate volunteers that are wanting to do this. They'll be like involved in the snowboarding side. There'll be like pro riders looking for sponsorship and helping me out on that side. Same thing on the ski side. And overall, we always have like 4 or 5 people that are actively looking for support, and it's been working fine. And so that's a big part of it, because without that, we can't put out the edition. And if we don't have that, we are not able to promise everything that we want to promise to the producers and athletes.
Okay. And so I was looking through the website. Let's see.
Yeah.
I was I had it earlier. Sponsorship. Okay. So the presenting sponsors. How did you guys determine the prices? Like kind of looking at this from a business perspective. So just looking at the website right now, presenting sponsors, it goes for 25,000 a piece. So what was who kind of set that number, and what, and was there some sort of market research involved in determining, okay, this is what this is valued at?
Of course, we've looked at years past, from 2007 onwards. We've built quite a bit of the following. They're all passionate skiers and snowboarders. We didn't buy one person's support. Obviously, the likes or the people that are following us is because they like what they see, or they're part of the industry and they're going to be there watching every year. So that's a real sound, I guess, for a sponsor to know that he's talking directly to that passionate skier, passionate snowboarder, or athlete or producer. It's something that's attractive. So we've been able to establish that, and the prices were based on the fact of how many people come to the festival physically, and how many people we reach during the process of the registrations, the presentations of the movie nominations and the awards and so on. So through that, we were able to measure up, what would be the value of the exposure. And this is in Canadian dollars, of course. That's what we in our market. That's definitely a fair value to pay to get that kind of promotional exposure.
And so are these companies, like, what, when a company approaches you, especially some of these bigger ones, what are they asking for in return? I know that you guys have some deliverables that you guarantee, but is there any companies that approach you and say, we only want to be shown in this light, or we only want to be associated with a certain image, if that makes sense? Like, do companies come to you with very specific requests, or are they just excited to be involved with a very passionate group?
There is very many reasons as to why you want to be part of such a process or such an event. And so the first thing we have to do as a marketing salesperson, you have to listen. You have to listen to why the sponsor wants to be involved. And so, for the most part, we build a sponsorship that is catering to women in the ski and snowboard industry. Do they want more of an event that's towards the urban and freestyle, because they're catering to that? Do they want to go into the big mountain, the bigger the bigger movie kind of style that people will put out? So we orient their investment towards what they want to get exposure from, and to match their image as well. Some those will want to reach as many people as they can, because the demographic will fit. We're into a sports type person that's healthy living, that is outdoors. So if you're an non-endemic brand and that's the type of people you're wanting to reach, well, we're it. I mean, you're going to talk to those people. But it also has to fit, because our industry is sponsored like crazy. So every single fan, passionate skier and snowboarder, they know that. So the product has to be somewhat serious. It cannot just be anything. If they want to actually be taken seriously by the fans. And one of the things I learned from sponsoring the event myself at the time is that anybody getting involved with iF3 gets a level of respect by the fans, because they understand that this sponsor got involved to make the festival exist again, and to help the producers and the athletes get exposure, and to help that keep going along year after year. So there's an immense respect that goes to the sponsors that get involved year after year.
Great. And so looking at sort of a different aspect of it, what is the, well, see, there's two directions we could go, and we'll touch on the second one after. So what is the sourcing of the videos like? What's that process? Who's going out there and saying, okay, this is the pool of videos that we're judging this year?
This is a very interesting process. that we've managed to streamline year after year now. So we announced the registration process usually late April, early May. And we just tell everybody you got to register by certain such date. And of course, the reason they register their project is so that we understand how many projects we're looking at this year. Then they have a few weeks to profine and finish their project, and they have to deliver a version that we can watch to do the official selection. And once the official selection process is done, then the judges will get the final version that they have 3 months process from the registration beginning to the final edit being given to the judges for them to watch. And typically, the production companies now, we've got a long list of production companies that have been involved year after year that we approach every year and say, hey, it's time to register. Same with the athletes. We have to nudge them. We have to remind them. But typically we get a pretty good response, and people are stoked to bring in their project to iF3 and get the ball rolling for the upcoming festival in the fall. And there's always new productions that come in, new amateurs or new pros that are coming in. Sometimes there's a mix match, but there's always new faces that come into the industry. So we bank on our media partners to help us out. The media partners are pushing to the various other registrations processed and saying, hey, we can get this going. Once the official selection is done, typically we were left with almost 70 projects to judge, which is huge.
Yeah. And when does the judging actually take place?
Once the official selection process is done, we wait for the final edits to be sent to us, and then the judges can begin their judging process. They have to watch every single edit, every single movie, and then of course choose the nominees, and then of course choose the winners. So that takes place typically the tail end of September, early October, a few weeks prior to the final iF3 festival. Settled, and they're still debating the winners. And then of course we announced the winners during iF3 on October.
Great. And who's on the judging committee? Is it I'm assuming it's split up for skiers and snowboarders. Do you have a team for each sport?
Yeah, there's at this point, up to this year, 2020, there was 3 ski judges and 3 snowboard judges. They judged the ski side separately from the snowboard side, and then they judged together the open side, which is ski and snowboard together. And they have to come together and bring some suggestions as to what could be the movie of the year from the jury standpoint, which means that all ski judges and snowboard judges have to agree that this is the movie of the year, which is a jury's pick. So there's a team of 6 people that are from various parts of the industry, and they could change year over year, but they are on our website. The judges are there for people to see who they are and what they do.
And so who decides when a new category is added? Can anybody just propose, okay, I think that, this is a growing segment in skiing, we should add this as a category?
Very, very good question. I'm very lucky to have Jeff Schmuck as the director of the movie awards. He's been with us for over 10 years at iF3, and him and his team. So the judges, it's a separate process from me. I don't get involved in the judging. I don't get involved in the nominees or the winning aspect. They don't consult me for this because I really want this to be a professional process. This is what makes iF3 special. So they gather together on a yearly basis prior to setting out what type of awards will be handed out this year. And they make changes beforehand so that everybody that's in the competition understand what they're up against and what type of prizes can be won. We're going to be in a process in the spring and summer right now to go look after some changes right now, because every single 2-3 year process, there's some changes. We see changes in how production companies are producing movies. So we have to make industry. So this is going to take place this summer. I'm involved in that process. I get involved in the discussions, give ideas, and the rest of the team as well. We kind of chat about what we see, what we see coming, and what we want changes. And one of the changes we'll make this year is we want to have a ski and a snowboard women on the panel of judges, because women are now super present in the industry. We've seen we put together what we call iF3 All Girls since about 6 years ago now, and this now has grown into a much bigger aspect. The women are really much involved now, both on the ski and snowboard side, in the movies themselves, and athletically speaking, they're equal to the men's side. So we are definitely happy to see that. It's super exciting to see that, and so we'll definitely make sure that there's a women on the ski judging side and a women also involved on the snowboard judging side as well.
Great. And switching gears, so what is the process for securing venues like? I'm sure that in some of these cities, it's able to go back and say, hey, same thing we did last year, but how do you choose where the premieres are held, where the parties are held, and also what cities you'll actually be holding the event in?
This might be a good time now to get into COVID versus non-COVID, because it's a completely different process
Mm-hmm.
now. It used to be one thing in one way, and now it's going to be a completely different situation.
Mm-hmm.
Started off last year, this situation. So prior to COVID, how do we choose? Well, because it was taking place in Montreal. Montreal has a really nice international feel. People want to come and visit Quebec. They understand, the appeal of that. So what we were doing is we would pick really awesome places in Montreal for people to gather at, and maybe have them visit various parts of the city and it'd be part of the touristy adventure of iF3. You'd be a place one night, another place another night. The final party would take place somewhere else. Everything would be through the metro, traveling through Montreal, you know, by foot, and exploring and just being part of the cinema atmosphere and things like that. So unfortunately, COVID changed all that. So we're looking at making changes now.
So COVID has messed that up for you.
It did, but it's provided us another opportunity. So last year, if you look at what we did last year, we call this an hybrid version of iF3. So we were able to present awesome programming online for everybody to watch from home in a safe environment, free. So they were able to watch Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and watch the movies prime time live on our TV free. And of course, we somehow pulled a rabbit out of our hat, and on Saturday we were able to do 2 drive-in events, one in Greek Peak, New York, and one in Montreal in Belle Neige. And we were able to present on the big screen some of the movies that were not available for us to watch from home from our TV screen. And in the Belle Neige drive-in, we ended up being 300 cars plus, over 1,000 people watching movies outside on the big screen, in our cars and beside our cars, in a safe environment. Nobody mixed in, everybody with masks, and making sure that they stayed safe and didn't mingle too much with the others. And we had a great night. It was a super high iF3. There was only good comments on that. It even snowed when we presented one of the movies, that when we started presenting the ski movies, it snowed and people there thought we were making it snow. They thought it was not real snow. So it was a really awesome evening. That was a last minute decision.
Yeah, yeah. And were you guys able to? I saw that there is a correspondent or somebody working on your team in Chile. So were you guys able to ever pull off an event there, or was that kind of planned for 2020 and that ended up having to get scrapped?
Chile was the first iF3 to be done entirely online, because Chile takes place in August, July, August. And Santiago, Chile was under a strict confinement at the time. They couldn't gather at all. They couldn't do anything physically. So they managed to do an online event and presented all the movies on Friday nights and Saturday night from a live TV program, and people were watching from home. That's the only way they could do it this year. They were the first iF3 ever to be strictly online, and in Montreal, we managed to do a dual presence and have people gather in a secure environment. So we're anticipating that in the next 2 years, this 2021 and 2022, it'll be difficult for people to travel, and to come safely to another country, or to go from state to state or province to province, and having to quarantine, not quarantine, being vaccinated, not vaccinated. Maybe there's new variants, there's new things coming at us. So what we want to do is we still want iF3 to exist. We want producers to be able to do their projects in a safe environment at home and near home, or even if they can travel, great. And we definitely want iF3 to exist year after year from this point on, but it'll be a hybrid version from this point on, meaning that you'll be able to watch from home if you cannot travel, or you don't feel safe to travel. And if you are able to travel and you want to join us, we'll definitely be planning some physical events. And what we plan to do is instead of having just one area, for instance, we used to all gather in Montreal. We will most likely have a Eastern and Western hotspot. So in Montreal and in Whistler Blackcomb.
So you think hybrid is here to stay permanently, regardless of COVID?
Yes, that is correct. I don't think at this point we're going to go back to what we knew as normal prior to COVID.
Hmm.
Um, we are international, so I can't. I don't know if people from Switzerland can travel back here, or if I can go to Switzerland, or if people can France, or people from Finland or Sweden, or even from USA can even come across. I don't know. I don't know which are the rules. How long it's going to take before when they cross the border, they can mix with other people. What type of vaccine they will be able to get or not. So there's too many things we don't know. So we don't want to create a problem and focus on what we did in the past. We want to focus on the reality of now, and we definitely want to be able to still communicate and still have the community of skiers and snowboarders gather on a yearly basis for one big weekend. And we think we can do this in an hybrid version. So if you in Connecticut want to watch, you're going to be able to watch on Eastern time, from October 20th to 23rd. And if you're able to travel, you're definitely welcome to come and join us to the physical events we'll be able to create. And we'll try to create some hotspots near people. So if you're in the Eastern States or Canada, then we'll create a couple of hotspots there. If you're in the Western States in Canada, we'll create some hotspots there. And there'll still be presentations of movies in your time zone as well. What we didn't do this past one, everything was Eastern time. So we're going to create a deferred event. So it's going to be Eastern time and then back on for the Pacific time as well, making sure that everybody gets to watch prime time.
Great. And so, say looking, 5+ years in the future, when hopefully this is all just a distant memory, would you guys like to re-expand internationally and try to add more stops if possible?
Yeah, actually, that being said, we're still going to be international. Chile is still going to be there. We want to talk to people in Eastern states and Western states to see if there's an interest in the same weekend, creating that hotspot. So you could create a hotspot in Connecticut if you want, and we just need to talk and see how we want to make it happen. But an iF3 weekend is, you're trying to create an area like you were mentioning, book a couple of venues, watch some films locally, have a few gatherings. Maybe some of the local athletes and producers can gather where you are because they can't travel internationally, but still from the screens, we'll be able to rally up as we're doing now and see people from the various places around the world at the same time. So what we know is in Europe right now, there's a good chance there'll be an iF3 in France. There'll be an iF3 in Switzerland. There's an iF3 in Chile. And we have in Canada, we have 2 hotspots figured out right now, and we got to talk to people in the States to see what we can do there.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I'm very happy to see that it's still a global event basically.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. Who are you looking at? Kind of the business side again. Who do you guys see as your main competitors, in your business?
Um, it's a very tough question. Um, the industry is so small.
Mm-hmm.
It's large, it's international, but it's so small. I'd much rather see the other, if there is other festival that exists and they can actually present another opportunities for the producers to show their movies and the athletes to gather and show their movies and show their great lifetime work. If there is such a thing, then so be it. I mean, we're what makes us different from any other festival or movie festival is the awards, the iF3 Movie Awards. That's a real thoughtful process. We gather, like I said, over 100 edits and movies that are registered on a yearly basis, and that's what sets us apart from any other festival in the world. There is others. They're small. They're local, and they should exist because there needs to be as many venues and places for people to see the movies as they can. So if we can help and produce more iF3s in everywhere around the world, we'd love to. The brand is for it's exactly that. We want to be international. We want people to see as many of the movies as possible. But to answer your question, is there any competition? I can't name any at this point.
Sometimes competition's good for businesses because they see, okay, this our competition is innovating in this way. Do you think it's ever hard to innovate and kind of see other opportunities because there's nobody else really doing what you're doing?
There's a mix. What we do when you speak competition. When you speak of a competition, especially in the business world, you're thinking about somebody that's trying to do the same thing you are better, or calling themselves number one, number two, number three. We're not about that because we're not about making money on the back of the producers and athletes, right? This is not at all what we are about. So we'd much rather see everybody come towards iF3 and make this the biggest we can make it, so that as many producers and athletes can get as many opportunities after this as possible. So when you're looking at competition, like you said, to measure up against another, I don't think there's too many festival out there that are geared towards truly looking at making the producers their number one client, making the athletes their number one client. Why is the producers and athletes bringing the movies to iF3 every year? Why are they registering their project with us? It's because they believe in what we're doing with the iF3 Movie Awards, and they trust us. We have never done anything with the movies that they don't want us to do. It's like a jewel when you hand out your lifetime's work. If somebody wants to mess around with it, you're done. It's so the Matchsticks productions, the Level Ones, in the Europe side as well. There's been like really high-end production companies that have trusted us with their lifetime project, and we want to keep it that way. So it's, from our perspective, I don't see a competition aspect unless somebody wanted to do it exactly the same thing we want to do, and All the power to them if they want to start something that's exactly like that. I don't know. It's been unique, very unique. So
Yeah, it's more like a celebration rather than a business. You said a
totally.
lot of the employees are volunteers essentially, so it's just for the love of the sport rather than trying to make any money off it.
Exactly. When you're looking at the website right now, you see the sponsors that are there. They helped us produce the TV programs that we produced. They helped us book the venues. They helped us, you know, put the website together, put all the links together, and that's basically it. I mean, nobody pocketed any money and walked away with this. So it's and when I'm looking at this, it makes me proud because that's what it's about, and we really want to make sure that the producers, the athletes that work their butts off making these movies on a yearly basis get as much exposure as possible. In a friendly conversation with Cody Townsend, who's one of our hosts on the TV program, he mentioned that iF3, why it exists, and back in 2014 he was in Montreal and he receives the prize during the movie awards, and he said that helped him book more opportunities for himself as a skier in movies, and it helped him make money as a professional skier. Well, if that's what we can do, that is perfect. That's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Another question I've talked about this with some other people. So the rise in Instagram and people posting their videos on Instagram has it's led to a decrease in movies and film parts. I personally think that movies and parts are kind of on the rise again. But do you think that that Instagram has hurt the festival at all?
No, it's it's still a very important undertaking for the producers and the video filmmakers, the athletes, to make something that's much longer than 30 second, a minute, or 2 minute. It You cannot fit it all in that time span. Um, so we thought we might see a change. We might see a decline in projects being registered, or some kind of a switch into how things are. I think Instagram is super important for those athletes that are in the game, for their sponsors, for them to be seen, to gather up a following. A lot of them compete like in the X Games and the various big sports events. They need to continue to communicate and show what they do with those videos. So, but in the end, a good ski movie or a good snowboard movie, whether it's 7-8 minutes to 30 minutes, 45 minutes long, it still has its merits, and it's still being watched, and it's still being waited upon when we get into the fall period and we're getting antsy to get on our skis. So it's and I've seen like new companies come in, and I've seen companies continue, like TGR was on their 25th year. um, that's crazy. App Saint Films on the snowboard side, same. They're in the 20 some odd years of filmmaking, and every year they make like a 45-minute to an hour edit. It's amazing, and I think it's going to be there for a long time. If anything, it may go back to this in the near future because people will be tired of just watching small stuff all the time. Like it's just you're getting bombarded.
Hmm. I agree. I would tend to agree with that. I think that there's kind of a people are being drawn back to more traditional forms of media. Like you see people getting really excited about vinyl again. I think that people are gonna they've tested the waters with these short little clips, and I think that people are becoming more drawn back to long form media and projects that really require a lot of effort to produce.
That's it. It's easy to pull out your iPhone and capture the moment and then send it off to the Instagram. It's another thing to really put some thoughts into what you just saw, and then really edit it, and bring in the colors, put some sound to it, put that all together and spend the hours and the hours that you you need to edit this and put really something masterful in front of people. So year after year, we get completely, um, it's awesome to see the amount of work that goes into this. And if people can just go back year after year and see what's been done since, the early 2000s, um, on the ski side, other than, it's funny because the only production company that we'd never seen register an iF3 is Warren Miller.
No surprise there. Yeah.
But we invited them every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Of,
invited them every year.
yeah.
But yeah.
That's so funny. And so has there been any film that when you watched it you're just absolutely blown away? I don't has any have any of them stood out and been like, wow, this person, this team, this company really blew it out of the water, and I'm like, I didn't expect something this amazing.
Yeah, so I've been amazed in many ways since I've discovered iF3. Like I was mentioning to you, unfortunately, I wasn't there when it first started, because I know that even 2007, 2008, when it started, there was some awesome movies that were being put out at the time, and it was the time where people were putting out like 45-minute, 1 hour movie out year after year. So I started to discover what was out there probably in 2012 and from this point onwards. So my reference is from that point onwards. Um, the one that actually comes to mind that really struck me is Valhalla, which is a movie that was everything that I mentioned to you up front. Big mountain out there, and the part of 2 minute part of skiers and snowboarders skiing naked is phenomenal, and it goes out from that perspective. Just the feeling of being a kid with absolutely the love of snow. That was what the movie put out. So for me, that's my favorite in the past few years. But there's some really really awesome movies that came out, and the ones that come to mind is the JP O'Clair, All I Can, is one that also really struck me back in the day. The skier himself was an amazing skier. Of course, McConkey. I mean, he put out some great, great movies. So there's, that's my top three, I would say. Watching those, I could watch those over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Those are great films.
Yeah.
Um so I know that IF3, it's got this huge party aspect to it, but do you have a lot of kids showing up? Because I know that I got super into free skiing when I was like in 8th grade, and I look at IF3, I'm like, oh my god, the people going there are crazy. Do you still have like not really kids, but like high schoolers and late teenagers showing up to these shows, even though they can't really partake in the all the after parties?
So when I first discovered iF3 in the 2012, 13, 14, 15, I was obviously a sponsor and going in full out into the festival itself and watching the movies, being part of the parties and stuff. And I would definitely see the kids trying to sneak in. Um, the unfortunate part was that, from my perspective, I thought they should be included more than not included, because that's who you want interested in there. So um, of course, they cannot go into bars, they cannot go into the drinking thing, and they cannot go to the party thing. So one of the major change we made is that they can go in every single venue, watch movies, and if other people are having a beer watching the movie beside them, is fine. When it comes to the 10 p.m. onwards, then there's like bouncers making sure that they're not getting in. But at the very least, they get to go watch the movies and sit with the producers and athletes and be part of it. See the awards, because even the awards were blocked off at the time. Now the awards, you can go in with the kids. You can sit down and watch, whether you're 15, 16, 17, you're not barred from the awards physically. And of course, with the hybrid version now, you can watch from home as well.
Yeah.
But iF3 needs to be accessible to the 14-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 16-year-old. What's not accessible is what society deems not to be, and that is when you're party mode, you're into a bar, that's it, that's over, you're out, you can't go in. But from a film and from a sports aspect, they need to be involved, they need to be included.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um now looking at the party side of it, so who's the one planning these crazy after parties? Are you involved in that process at all?
Yes, I'm still involved. I still enjoy them, and of course, it's part of iF3. We can't step away. I mean, once we're done watching the movies and getting all stoked, we definitely want to get together and enjoy our night and listen to great music. So that's definitely going to be part of iF3s in the future as soon as COVID allows us.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so what's the meeting process for that like? Do you guys all sit around a table and say, okay, like I saw one year, you're like, all right, let's do like a redneck themed night. Like, what's the actual meeting like for those parties?
Those are definitely like a big brainstorm table. We bring everybody in, the judges, the director of ski snowboard, everybody's together, and there is no idea that is not looked at. So we look at that, we look at the teams, we look at the bands, we look at the budget, of course. And as I mentioned, if the sponsor is willing to sponsor a party, then obviously the sponsor's involved as well in picking the theme and making sure it matches. So yeah, it's a big process, but yeah, everybody's involved. It's not something that's in the way, and everybody has to feel that there's the right atmosphere to create. Typically, we get away with two big nights. We try to create three, but people get tired after three.
Yeah.
We're able to get away with two big nights.
Yeah. And I was watching some videos from previous years, like when Doug Bishop was doing his video series, and it looks crazy. I mean, he was wasted throughout the entire video. Have you had any issues where you'll have the event one night and it was just too nuts, or somebody did something and just spoiled it for the second night, and the venue was like, no way, you're coming back?
Believe it or not, it hasn't happened, and I have not heard that we've been barred from any place because we always make it right. We always make it right with the venues. So we're not barred from any place. We always clean up nicely, and it's not about breaking anything. It's about having fun and being together as a community. So yeah, there's pretty wild stuff that came out, but if there was, it's because the venue allowed it and it was okay. It was part of it. So
Yeah.
Montreal has got some pretty wild venues, so we're able to do a lot of things.
That's awesome. And so I have one viewer question, and this kind of ties into it. I didn't send out the whole a request for everybody, so I reached out to one person in particular. So David Zorko says he wants me to ask you about the boat party. So what's the story behind that?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. That was 2017, and back in the day, we had to find some hospitality for both the skiers, producers, snowboarders coming from all around the world, and of course the staff. And as I mentioned to you, on any given big iF3, we could be 40 volunteers. So that's a lot of people working the venue. So in 2017, it was a huge venue called Anger 16, like the song, Megadeth song, and it was a huge empty Anger, and there was not a lot of places we could get the staff into. So I looked up on Airbnb to book something, and I found this boat, and there was 20 rooms on the boat. So that's what we booked.
Oh my god.
And so the part on Anger 16 was, of course, there was great bands playing and everything else. So the staff, the main staff and volunteers would get back to the boat, and there was a VIP lounge on the boat for the athletes and producers as well to come and just chill and enjoy a drink and be part of just kind of a, a way place, from the big venue, which is just walking distance. So I mean, it was one of those epic iF3 spot, and it will go down in the memory.
Yeah.
Um, Zorko definitely did a few of his own of his own marks on the boat. I've seen even somebody jump off and do a couple of flips off the top into the St. Lawrence River. So
What
that's
type, what type of boat was this? Was this like a river boat, or was this just like a huge what type of
it's
boat?
it transformed. I think it was a transport boat, like car transport boat, that was transformed into an actual boat that you can rent and stay on. It's on the water, and there's, like I said, there's rooms on the bottom, and there's like a living room on the top, and then at the very top you have access to being outside, and there's a jacuzzi and all that kind of stuff. So it was a big find because the staff was totally spoiled, and of course the producers and VIPs were enjoying that. So it was it was a good moment. It was a really strong moment of 2017.
Yeah, that's badass. That
Yep.
is badass. Just kind of rounding everything out and circling back, like what would your advice be for kids coming out of high school and college about where to start their career and kind of how to get involved in sports, whatever sport that may be, just something that they're passionate about?
It's a very good question, and as I was just talking to you about my white page, and it's a true picture. I do have a white page in front of me. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I never did. I never did when I was 14, 15. I went all over the map, but everything I did, I learned, and everything I learned brought me somewhere else. And so completing your work, completing your high school, completing what you're working on now is important because you're going to be able to use it for the next thing you're going to do. And one of the things that I was able to find out in my late 30s is when I made a major career move and I changed because I was not happy at my job. I had a regular job. When I changed and I did what I wanted, from that point on, I was happy. And being happy brings a lot of passion to your work, and money is no longer an important thing. It's about what you do and getting up in the morning. Of course, everybody needs some cash, and it's cliche to say you don't need some money to be able to live, breathe, and bring your grocery home and so on. But first and foremost, if you're able to just do what is in your heart and focus on that, that actually brings you places you have no idea. And it brought me to iF3. And I'm very happy to contribute to that community. And and I would have never been able to tell anybody this when I was 14 or 15. I didn't even know that there was going to be a possibility. So that's my advice, is to follow your heart and to complete everything, because everything you do brings you somewhere else. If you do it with passion and with your heart, it will bring you to the right spot.
So that's all the questions I have. Is there anything before we go that you'd like to give a shout out to? Any, like where can people follow you and kind of just see what you're up to?
There's a couple of things I want to say. 2021, we're definitely on board. We're doing something. So they got to keep listening and watching and following us to find out what's going to happen. Obviously, we're looking for productions, companies, and athletes to register their projects, whether they're amateurs or pros. Everybody's welcome to send out their edits. There's going to be links put out most likely early May. And we are, if people have not heard of iF3 and they're just hearing about it now, they go to the website, if3festival.com. There's a guide there. All the movies from 2020 are on there: the ski, the snowboard, the open, with links going to the production so you can watch them for free. If you don't see a link on one of the movies, we're looking for it. We'll eventually put it there. That's where it will be. I'm currently working on putting up the 2019 movies in that same guide, so that people can actually watch some of the older movies that were put out. And we're looking at what the government's going to do, what vaccines are like, what everything's going to happen. We're really iF3 is like that. We're timed perfectly, so there's going to be a lot of action going on from the various government in the next few months, and we land in October. And so everybody starts school in September. Governments have a lot of pressure to make things normal by September. So if things are semi-normal by September, then iF3 should become the place to be, as per usual. So yeah, keep your eyes and ears open. Follow us on our website, Instagram, Facebook, all the major places. That's where we're at. And you'll not see me too much because it's all about the passionate production companies, the athletes, and the staff, the volunteers that put behind the scenes. That's why we exist. We want to continue to exist. So keep giving us the love.
Thank you for coming on today, and it was super informative, and it was great talking to you.
It's same here. Same here.
All right, that was Luc Skypowder. You can find updates about iF3 on Instagram at iF3Festival or if3festival.com. Make sure to subscribe and rate the show if you enjoyed it. That's all we have for this week, so we'll see you next time.